And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Hey you, what are you doing out there? You're looking at me with a puzzling stare. Though I'm not as professional as most channels go, I'd like to welcome you to my show. I'm Sandy Allen, the charismatic host, talking about weird media that interests me the most. So hang on to your seats and don't get too drunk. I've got distant cassettes you've probably thrown in the junk. To keep you waiting any longer, that would be a sin. This is the Sandy Allen Show, so let's begin right now.
Hello there, I'm Sandy Allen, and I am well and truly back in action! Yep, you heard me right, this channel is not dead. It'll never die so long as I'm around. But all the same, I can't be making videos all the time because I have to do actual work, if you know what I mean. I'm very busy writing books and writing podcasts and recording podcasts, which I hope to share with the world someday. So here's a little something to sate your appetite for now. Inspired by James A. Williams' three-part epic, I thought I'd share with you some of my favourite and least favourite home media logos. As both he and I have talked about the infamously loud Hit Entertainment logo from very different perspectives, I'd rather not put myself through that hell again. So I think I'll just talk about the ones that James hasn't covered, because I've got some personal favourites of my own, and I think they're pretty interesting. Some of them are slightly more obscure than the ones he's picked, but most of them, in my eyes anyway, are classics. Alright, before I apologise once more for how idle this channel has been, I think I'd better get on with the video and start talking about these logos. I'm starting this video off with a logo that has a somewhat personal connection to me, as my mother used to work at Random House Publishing, and I used to think, as a very young child, I used to think she was talking about this company. This logo starts off with a black-violet gradient, then some rainbow-coloured stripes come in from the edges of the screen, and a couple of squares and triangles form a minimalistic version of the Random House Publishing logo. Then a series of white lights travel across the house and draw black outlines on it, while words Random House fade in at the bottom, and home video comes flying out of the door. The thing I like best about this logo is its music, with that very 80s synth, and that quiet little guitar chord at the end. Is that the right one, or? No, I think there's a... Maybe it's this one. Maybe I'll just remove one of my fingers. This is a really nice logo. And it was the one that came before the Random House logo on my Dr. Seuss Beginner Book Video DVDs. It starts off with the sun in the sky, then a ribbon with the word wonder cut out of it flies into the centre of the screen, starting out pink, then changing to blue, and as it frames the sun, a golden 3D sun appears with the Sony logo above it. How does that ribbon fly around without getting torn into pieces, considering it's got all those letter shapes cut out of it? And how lucky is it that it stopped right in front of the sun? The sun here looks kind of like how a typical kid or Lucy Cousins or myself might draw it. Anyway, I am quite fond of the synth flute in this little jingle. It reminds me a bit of the the end of the classic Disney logo that goes. Before we leave the good doctor behind, here's a logo that appeared on UK exclusive home video releases of the Beginner Book video series. I don't remember it as much though, but I do recall as a young'un watching a version of the Beginner Book video programme of Dr. Seuss's ABC that also included a book about funny black silhouettes. I also had a book called The Shape of Me and Other Stuff, but I hadn't quite clocked that it was the same thing. It took me way too long to connect the dots. I'm in love with the shape of me and other stuff. Not gonna lie, that was a lot funnier in my head. I later discovered when I was about 18 that this was really two programmes rolled into one. Dr. Seuss's ABC, plus another video which was only really a US exclusive called I Am Not Going to Get Up Today, which isn't really one of his more popular books, but it does feature two books called In a People House, which I remember very well, and another one called Great Day for Up, which is very popular here in the UK for a book that Dr. Seuss didn't illustrate, because the illustrations actually came from national treasure Quentin Blake. We start off with some visuals that look like we're travelling through a vortex, somewhat like the opening titles of a certain other Doctor-related show. Then a giant V swings around and smacks you across the face. Whoa! It sits around doing nothing much, then a star flies in circles around it and hits the right side of it to create a little E, and the screen changes shape to look like it's bending. It turns out I really did forget this logo, and I don't have much to say about what I think of it. This is another logo I have quite fuzzy memories of seeing. It fades in to show a blue and purple maze-like setting, then we drop down a keyhole-shaped hole right to the bottom. We move along the bottom floor until we come across an utterly pointless yellow cylinder that fades out all of a sudden. Then we go up another keyhole, and at the end it turns out we were inside the logo the whole time. Although I don't remember it very well, I like this logo a lot as it's very creative. But I have a slight problem with how garish the blues and purples they use are. Makes me want to put sunglasses on just to look at it properly. Now for a logo I'm not particularly fond of, but it's still better than some logos. A box with a D on it and a long tail slides into the frame, while the A, T, L and E just appear, and the word entertainment pops in. Then it all just turns 3D and shines for a bit, while the opening notes of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony in D minor play in the background. It's about as basic and lazy as logos get, with not many bells and whistles. And the big bang at the beginning may startle a few children who just want to see their favourite Mr. Men cartoons, or whose parents may have bought them the wrong Horrible Histories DVD when they hoped for, you know, the CBBC version. But maybe I think I'm being a bit harsh on it, as it's really not all that bad. Yeah, I've seen worse.
Before we move on to the next logo, while we're still on the subject of the Mr. Men, I want to say a big rest in peace to Pauline Collins, the original narrator of the Little Miss animated shorts with her husband John Alderton, who has died recently at the age of 85. The range of accents and voices that she could pull off in those cartoons was as diverse and varied as her own career. She was an incredible talent and will be very much missed.
This one's very similar to the Walt Disney Video Premiere logo that James talked about, but as you can see, there's no Walt here. The Disney signature just slides in from the top, and the Video Premiere, written in Times New Roman, gives a slight little spin as it comes up from the bottom. All in stony silence. When I watched Winnie the Pooh's Most Grand Adventure for the first time in 20 years, which was really worth it, by the way, it's such an emotional story, and that song Wherever You Are has come to mean a lot to me. As I looked at that logo, with how quick it was, how silent it was, and how it only lasted about like 2 or 3 seconds, I honestly thought it was some kind of glitch. While we're on the subject of Winnie the Pooh's Most Grand Adventure, here's another touching tale from the 100 Acre Wood. The Tigger Movie, a film I really enjoyed as a child and was genuinely in pieces when I watched it for the first time in 20 years. I don't know how, I just found myself sort of crying a bit when at certain points in the film. The logo that preceded the VHS release was about as simple as they get, and very similar looking to the last one I talked about, with the gold text on a black background. It's a slightly anticlimactic logo with a very short fanfare, although sometimes they'd be willing to go the extra mile and change its background on certain occasions. And it may take a few viewers by surprise, but yeah, I think it's generally not that bad of a logo. It's one I'll always remember, as it reminds me of a film I absolutely love. It'll always remind me of happy memories watching one of my favourite childhood films. James talked about all BBC Video logos in his video except this one. It's a very good logo, albeit rather short-lived, only in use for about 3 years it was. It starts out with a copyright warning in gold text on a black background, which then shrinks into nothingness, and a world map fades in, which folds into a globe and spins around. Then the text BBC Video appears underneath it. And the music's very good too, with the Indian drums. This was based on the idents that BBC One used to use in the 80s and 90s, called the Computer Originated World, or rather amusingly, COW for short. This is just from my point of view, but for so many years I remembered this logo very badly because the way I saw it, I remembered the font looking more like this, the continents on the back not being visible, the globe spinning much slower, and the background having stars. Maybe it's the Mandela effect coming into play, or maybe it's just my 4-year-old brain not processing things properly. All that aside, I love how creative the start is, like how the copyright warning is literally part of the logo, and then it's chosen Britain to shrink into. Here's a slightly less nostalgic logo, but still an interesting one to talk about. A number of white lines spin around in a circle that spread apart and turn into dots, while the logo just appears in the centre. The music's pretty good too, it's got a sort of air of mystery about it. And I was genuinely quite surprised to see this new logo on my Strictly DVDs. I thought it was exclusive to these DVDs, like, because it was taking because it was all spinning around. I thought it was taking the shape of the glitter ball. But this, I find, is a bit of a problem, and I don't know if anybody else thinks this too, but I find this is a bit of a problem with things made in or after the 2010s. They're just a bit blander than they used to be. I mean, the decades prior, not just with logos, but everything in decades prior was just more colourful, if you know what I mean. And this particular logo is one such example. Yeah, the older ones are better.